Hey guys, welcome back. In this video series, I'm going to show you how I took this house, split it into a duplex, and turned it from looking like this to this. I hope you enjoy. So while I was carrying down those bags of concrete to fill in the plumbing that I had dug up, I noticed that the stairs were pretty wobbly, creaky, and definitely had a lot of bow to them. So right after that, I replaced the stairs leading to the basement. One of the things I did to help waterproof the basement was add a few layers here of this liquid rubber. So you basically roll it on, it dries, and you keep adding layers until you kind of achieve your desired thickness of this liquid rubber. So I used this roll-on insulation, which is really great, super easy to use, and the nice thing about this product is it creates not only that R value that I need for a basement apartment, but also it has a built-in water vapor. And it's actually pretty fun using this concrete nailer. You just put in the cartridge, load in your fastener, and shoot it right into the concrete. Also, the cool thing about using this product is it goes right against the foundation. So when I'm framing up my walls, I have space between my wall studs and the insulation. And this makes it much easier to run electrical wires and stuff like that. As opposed to having to put, insulation in between the studs. I would have to do that once all the electrical was done. So, this was kind of nice. I had lots of space in the walls to work freely. Now, because I added in a bathroom in the basement, I had to redirect some water supply, hot and cold for the shower, the vanity, the toilet, as well for the kitchenette. One thing to note, for a secondary dwelling unit, you actually need separate shutoffs. So I had to add in some specific shutoffs. So basically you can shut off the water for the basement without disturbing the upstairs units and vice versa. So you might be wondering why we went from using PEX to copper for the tub spout. And the reason is copper has a larger interior diameter than PEX. Just the copper pipe versus the PEX, it's much larger inside. And then once you put the PEX fitting in, it even goes down to like 3/8 of an inch. So much more water can go through the copper than through the fitting for the PEX. And so what happens is when you are filling up the tub, if you had PEX here, there wouldn't be enough, there'd be too much pressure and water coming in. And so what would happen is it would be coming out here and the pressure would build, and eventually you'd have water drizzling out the top when you're just trying to fill the tub. So by using copper, the smallest interior diameter is the actual diameter of the pipe, which is pretty close to 1/2 inch. Because all the fittings that go around are larger than that. And so what that means is you can have water coming in from both the warm and cold supply, and this interior diameter lets enough of that water come through so that it'll only fill up from the tub spout, and then once you're ready you can flip the diverter, it'll pressurize up and then come out there. So lots of people will use PEX here, and then they just go to turn on the shower just for the tub spout to fill up the tub, and then they wonder why the shower head starts to drizzle water, and that's why. thing I spent a lot of time doing was noise proofing the basement. So I added 2 layers of rock wool insulation, so that's about 10 inches of noise cancelling insulation. Then I also added these metal things called resilient channel, which basically hang off of the floor joists, and so that minimizes your contact points. So you can see here the metal resilient channel I mentioned earlier, again running perpendicular to the floor joists to minimize contact, and that just reduces the amount of sound that's able to be transmitted between the 2 surfaces. And it kind of hangs off, and you'll see here I had to use special drywall screws that kind of hold better on metal, and the drywall just tucks right up against it. You screw it in, and it basically creates an air barrier between the upstairs and downstairs. Now, because this is a secondary dwelling unit, I had to use 5/8 inch type X drywall, which basically has a specific fire rating. And the idea is you want, for example, if there was a fire, it to be completely self-contained in one unit and not spread to the others. So when I say fire separation, any hole in the wall, any access panel has to be fire rated. So you'll notice later on I put a plumbing stack. I have access to that, but it has to be a self-closing fire rated door. So if you left it open, the spring would close it and then fire couldn't spread through. And where the washer machine connects with the hot and cold water and also the drain for the washing machine, that's a hole in the wall. And if there's a fire, that plastic box would melt and then fire could spread through the walls and up. So behind that, I had to build a basically fireproof box to kind of maintain that fire separation between the units. Also, the bathroom vent and the dryer vent, those also had to be continuously fire separated. That's why you saw me earlier build out that cavity between the floor joists for the bathroom exhaust. Another thing is the doors, they have to be fire rated, and between the units they have to have a self-closing device. You also have to do that for the furnace room. The furnace room kind of has to be self-contained as well. And I also had to use a fire rated pot light. If I'd used normal pot lights, then similar to the washing machine box, I would have to have built drywall boxes around the opening. So again, if fire were to go through the ceiling, like melt through the pot light, it would be all self-contained. So I just spent a little bit more. It was much easier just buying the fire-rated pot lights. So here I was screwing in the drywall. This was actually another layer that I added just on top of the shared common area in the back, because when you come through the back of the house, there's a shared entrance, and then one door goes to one unit and one door goes to the other. So that room also had to be fire separated, so I added another sheet of drywall. So I was using my stud finder to find the floor joists, and turns out the stud finder also detects copper pipes, and so I think that was pretty impressive. Shows that I'm screwing in my screws in a straight line, because I managed to hit the copper pipe, a half-inch pipe 4 times in a row here. So Now you'll notice here that I used the moisture resistant drywall in the bathroom. instead of the type X on all the walls. And the reason I was able to do this is because I just had the fire-rated drywall continuously cover on top of the bathroom roof, and that way I was able to use double it up on the roof and then just normal moisture resistant on the walls, just because it's a high moisture environment and I want to make sure that there's as little mold and mildew as possible.
So I'm gonna hit this now with 20 so that when I'm done today, before I leave, I can hit it. That way tomorrow I'll be able to go across this way.
Yeah.
Shooting this way.
So I didn't get a chance to film it, but I added 2 layers of primer to all of the drywall. And you add primer on new drywall just because it's cheap, and new drywall really soaks up a lot of paint, especially on the places that they've put mud and tape, so on the corners and all the seams. And primer is very cheap, so you kind of slap it on, and then you can use your more expensive, nice finish paint, and you only have to do 1 or 2 coats on top of the primer. See here we have the waterproofing all the way up, overlapping all the corner joints here. We have this front piece of metal, which is where the tile will end, and then we'll have the flooring butting right up next to this little transition piece here. And waterproofing all the way around the toilet. And then in front of the tub, so we can't run the Curdiband up onto the tub, so instead we use this white, comes in a bottle like this, It's super sticky and kind of very malleable even once it's dried, and it's kind of like a rubber, and it'll kind of expand and contract if that joint ever moves. So I put a ton of that stuff down, then I put down the Curdy band, and then I put more on top and smooth it out with my finger. And you'll barely be able to see it because the tiles will come kind of right to the top of it, and then there'll also be a layer of 100% silicone caulking along the tub edge. So that is the kind of waterproofing detail here. Most tubs, they leak along the front edge. I mean, it makes sense. You come out of the shower, you're dripping wet, and kind of water goes along there. Also, water splashes out and seeps down here. So I really tried to make sure that this was as waterproof as possible. Alright, here's my pro tip for tiling. Once you put all your tiles in, oftentimes there's all sorts of thin set that's still stuck in between the joints. And if you let that stuff harden, it is a nightmare to scrape out with an X-Acto knife or another tool. So I have taken a paintbrush here, kind of chopped it off so the bristles are a little bit more dense. And basically I just get a little bit of water at the end of my paintbrush, and I go back and forth inside the joints. Oops, that was maybe a little bit too much water. And as you can see, it cleans out the joints. And this is going to save me literally like probably an hour or two worth of work down the line. And then I'll just go over that with a paper towel to soak up the water. Like I said, that will save me a lot of time later on, not having to go back through and scrape out these joints. So I'm installing the cabinets here, and unfortunately, I mean I knew this before, but the floor is quite uneven. You can see how much the cabinets are shimmed up from the front to the back, and also the wall that I framed was not perfectly straight either, and so I've just tried to average it out as best as possible. And so yeah, these are now securely fastened. What was really important for me was this, and this were all perfectly level, because there's going to be two pieces of countertop. There's going to be one that goes here with the sink here, centered in the window, and there'll also just be a 27-inch section over there with the gas stove and range kind of in the middle. So one of my friends was in town for the weekend and offered to help at the place. So we were able to get about 90% of the flooring done in about a day's worth of work. So it was super great to have him, and definitely things move a lot faster when you have a second set of hands. I'm just building a platform here where the fridge and stacked washer dryer are going to sit. And the reason why I am putting a platform here is because you'll notice how much the floor slopes from the back to the front of the concrete here. And that's just because when they poured the concrete, they put a pretty aggressive slope going down to the basement drain here. So what I've done is I put down some wood. Any place that it contacts the concrete, I've put some protective tape here just to prevent any moisture from touching the wood. And I'm about to put a few metal brackets here in the corners to help hold this in place. I'll put 2 layers of plywood on top and make sure there's lots of contact points to the ground, and that's where the fridge and stacked washer dryer will sit. One thing I also had to do was install an in-duct smoke detector. Now because both units share a common furnace, I had to install a device that if it detects smoke will shut off the furnace instantly. More importantly, will shut off the fan of the furnace, and that'll just prevent smoke and fire from being drawn between the two units. I also had to get special smoke alarms. Basically these ones are special because they can detect smoke, carbon monoxide, they have a visual, so a blinking light, as well as an audio. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed or learned something along the way, I'd love if you could like and subscribe down below.